Welcome to the best wildcard team video ahead of matchday 9. I wouldn't personally recommend the wildcard in the second leg of a competition because a lot of these players you bring in could still be eliminated. Chelsea could still mount a comeback against Real Madrid, and football is a funny game. So that is just my personal opinion. I'd rather use the wildcard either in the group stages early on or during maybe matchday 9, matchday 11, the first leg of the quarterfinals or of the semi-finals or even the final itself. I just don't think the upside is there. But for those of you that might also want some transfer tips, this could also be the video for you. A lot of these players that you see on screen I already have or I'm looking to bring in myself. So let's jump straight into it. In goal, I would go for either Ederson or Alisson. I think they're the two best goalkeepers just because of their teams. I think they are two of the most likely teams to get to the final, and they also have pretty good defences and good fixtures overall. Although Ederson away at Atletico Madrid isn't the best, so maybe in your case it would be better to go for Alisson if you're wildcarding obviously in matchday 9, and instead of one of the other players I'm talking about for Liverpool, you can maybe change that, and then that will give you the possibility of having a fifth Liverpool player in Alisson in goal. So it's up to you. As for the second goalkeeper, I've just picked this guy who I have in my own team already. The only thing I would recommend if you are going for something like this and going for a second cheap goalkeeper, try not to get someone like Scott Carson who's going to occupy potentially a really important City spot. And the same goes for Liverpool players, having the backup goalkeeper for Liverpool. I just don't think it's worth wasting one of these spots for these teams on these second goalkeepers that probably will never play anyway. So you'd rather go for a team like Benfica, who you probably won't stack up on at any point during the competition, even if Benfica did the unthinkable and beat Liverpool. So that's just the way I see it. Let me know, what do you think? There's also Neuer and Courtois who deserve an honourable mention, and Edouard Mendy, although Chelsea don't look likely to advance at this stage. But I would go for Ederson, I think, as the main goalkeeper, and just go for someone cheap as the second one. I've seen some of you who have Lacodimos or Rulli as your second goalkeeper, and in the case of the Argentine for Villarreal, he got the clean sheet against Bayern Munich, so fair play. I just don't see it happening in the second leg. It would be very unlikely for Bayern Munich not to score in 2 Champions League games in a row against the same team. That's just the way I see it, especially in Munich. So I think it's just worth having one expensive goalkeeper, one of those teams, one of those goalkeepers that are doing really well and have a good chance of reaching the final or at least the semi-finals, and then just go for someone cheap in the second goalkeeper position to fund the other moves that you want to make in the starting 11. This might be a recurring theme throughout the video, but I would stack up on Manchester City and Liverpool players. Joao Cancelo and Laporte, I think, are two of the best defenders in the game. The reason why I also include Laporte into this conversation is because he's getting consistent returns, a lot of ball recoveries, clean sheets, and in terms of his value, he's probably the best around 5.5 and below. So he's offering really good value. As for Cancelo, he's a bit more expensive, but he is worth that extra bit of money. He's also got that attacking threat, and he is the highest scoring player, or at least defender, in UCL Fantasy this season. Robertson and Trent are also really good, although Trent is even better than Robertson because of ball recoveries. The Scotsman doesn't get too many compared to his fellow fullback, but both of them are great nonetheless, and that's why we don't have Alisson in goal, and instead we've gone for double Liverpool defence and triple City with Ederson, Laporte and Cancelo. We're going to have quite a few Liverpool midfielders and forwards, and that's why we've gone for this setup and not gone for Alisson in goal. But once again, you can change things a little bit. There's the possibility to go for Thiago Silva or maybe a Real Madrid defender instead of Pavard, or maybe one of these City players, but I think I'd go about it this way, and Pavard will be that Bayern Munich coverage. Ideally, I'd want Nicolas Sula, but he isn't nailed, and otherwise he would definitely be my pick. He gets those ball recoveries. He got me a 9-point return in matchday 8, good times. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case in matchday 9. I had to get rid of him, looking at Bundesliga and Bayern Munich benching him, unfortunately, in recent games. So that was a move I had to make. Otherwise, Sula would still be in my own team. So I'd go for Pavard, cover Bayern Munich there. I think they'll still advance, although do not write off Villarreal, as I keep on saying. And I think this is a pretty solid defence. 2 City defenders, 2 Liverpool ones, and I think these are probably 5 of the best defenders you can get, although there's still quite a few others that I still haven't mentioned. And with Chelsea on the brink of elimination, I can't really, suggest too many of their options, although there's still Reece James, Thiago Silva and Antonio Rudiger who offer good value. I just don't like the Real Madrid defenders. If Eder Militao wasn't suspended, I think he might make this team even over the likes of Pavard. I've gone for Salah yet again, but he isn't in the greatest of form. And if you compare it to Kevin De Bruyne, you could actually go for him instead. So let me know, would you actually get rid of Salah on the wildcard or even with a free transfer, or will you be keeping him? I think I'm still going to keep. I back him to produce the goods against Benfica and also in the latter stages of the Champions League, but that is still a bit of a contentious decision, and I can understand why some of you may want to sell him. I've gone for Leroy Sané. I back him to start, for Bayern Munich against Villarreal, as I discussed in my other videos, and I'm still quietly confident that he will produce. He's been one of the best players all season, 82 points, only Lewandowski has scored more. And then Luka Modric, I'm looking to actually get him in for my own team, and he consistently gets 4 points and above. You could go for Foden or a few others that are a bit cheaper, but I would actually cover Real Madrid this way, and I'd rather go for Modric and obviously the kind of obvious one up front rather than going for the defenders, because apart from Militao, I'm not really a big fan of the rest, and Courtois is a really good option in goal, but I think there are better options like Ederson and Alisson, like I discussed before. Danjuma is the best midfielder around his price and below, so I think it's an easy pick, and if Villarreal go through, you've already got a piece of that Villarreal pie, and even if Danjuma is eliminated, I still think he can get a return at the Allianz, so that's why I've gone for him. And as for the fifth midfielder, I've gone for Fabinho, but one other thing you could do is go for a 4.5 million midfielder, and then you can upgrade your second goalkeeper, or you could go for another midfielder like Rodri, and that gives you the flexibility and possibility of getting Alisson instead of Ederson. So let me know, would you rather go for Rodri and Alisson or Fabinho and Ederson? That's a pretty tricky one actually, and I would actually be really curious to know your thoughts about it. I don't think there's much to split them, if anything, but I really like Fabinho's ball recoveries. Rodri also does the same thing, but I think Fabinho is slightly better in terms of ball recoveries. And Ederson, Alisson, that's a pretty good debate as well, although I slightly back City's defence a little bit more than Liverpool's. And now let's get to the front three, and this should be pretty straightforward, I'd say. Just like with the team selection and the best limitless team, we've gone for the same front three: Lewandowski, Benzema and Luis Diaz. But once again, I have to highlight this point. There is the possibility that Jota starts in either Matchday 10, or this could be a problem heading into the semi-finals and the final. So Diaz isn't exactly the safest pick, but he also has quite a high ceiling, as he demonstrated in Matchday 9. As for Benzema, he's just in great form. He's probably the most informed player in the world, so I definitely go for him. And there's a debate to be had in terms of the captaincy. So just like I said with my wildcard team, I would captain either Lewandowski or Benzema on the first day. I slightly lean more towards Lewandowski just because of the fixture, but obviously you can't write off Benzema, as proven in Matchday 9 and Matchday 8. And as for the second day, I think I'd still go for Salah, especially in this case. With the limitless team, I also suggested Mane, so that is a possibility. But with this team, you have fewer options. There's also the fullbacks, but I still think I'd rather go for Salah. And you can't forget Diaz if he does start. Remember, you do get the lineups, so you can change the captaincy. But in terms of the deadline and finalising your teams, you won't know how Liverpool and City line up, which is a major disadvantage. And also a lot of the players I brought in from those two teams, the reason why I did so is because we got the lineups heading into the first leg of the quarterfinals. So sometimes, it kind of comes and goes. You have to accept it. But this is my team. Let me know what you think. And it's actually very similar to my own team, so maybe there's an element of bias there. Thank you very much for watching once again. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a single upload or deadline. And speaking of deadlines, we're going to do a deadline stream on Tuesday where I'll finalise my team, talk about the latest injuries, the latest news, and talk about the best captaincy options and all of that, as well as your own team situations. So it would be massive to have you there as well, as always. And if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. And you can also join the Discord server. The link is in the description below, as well as the UCL Fantasy and FPL leagues. And there's also playlists on the channel to see every single video and live stream that I make and that I am yet to make. And just all the best of luck for Matchday 10. Good luck. Hopefully you get those green arrows and the rank you want. Take care, enjoy the football, and I'll see you next time.